my name is Rachel Mandelbaum. I'm Dayenu's climate campaign manager, which basically means I work with our whole staff and our organizing team to put together campaigns that fight for comprehensive climate policy at the state and federal level. I've been there a little less than a year. I was looking for an organization that was smaller, where I could fill an interesting niche that was a little bit more nimble, and was working with people. Before that, I worked for 7 years at the Sierra Club on their national field program. So we are a national organization with organizing groups that we call circles. Those are all over the country, including a bunch here. I think some of you have heard, we have, I mentioned earlier, Dorshet Sebek, Ohavi Shalom, Kavod, are names of synagogues that you all might know. So we have a pretty active presence. The sign-up sheet is being passed around. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a past national campaign that we did this fall to get out the vote, and some of our lessons learned. And then I'll touch a little bit more on what we have going on now and how you can get involved. And I'll try to amend it for a little bit. We'll do a little yapping amongst ourselves, I think, to keep things interesting. So if you haven't heard of us before, and hopefully I won't be reading a ton off the slides, but basically our mission is up there. You can take a second and read that. But the thing I want to focus on is that bold political action. If you were at our other workshop earlier, focused more on the spiritual audacity, the spiritual adaptation of this work, and I have a couple materials up on the piano that speak to more of the spiritual aspect of this work, but I will be talking more about the politics. So these are the 3 pillars of our work. When we say bold action, that really means campaigns, movement building, which means developing activists and leaders who are organized in their communities, and again, that spiritual adaptation, making sure that the work that we do is rooted in Jewish history, experience, traditions, and really offering pathways for Jewish communities to confront the crisis, the climate crisis, with hearts and eyes wide open, really bringing their full selves into this, acknowledging those feelings of fear, anxiety, but also cultivating a sense of hope and moving into action. So what does that look like in practice? So chutzpah is what we have lovingly named our Get Out the Vote work. The audacity to demand a just and livable world. We think it's fun. We love a little Yiddish in this movement, right? And basically what this looks like is our Getting Out the Vote work. We've been doing this work since we've been founded in 2020. Last year was our 3rd year running this program. Maybe some of you have been part of our phone banks or at least gotten emails about it. It's okay. And basically in 8 weeks, we had 789 people be part of reaching out to voters. We had 1,118 phone bank and canvas shifts, and we contacted 800,000 voters. And we did this work in partnership with an organization called the Environmental Voter Project, who I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, but they work to build environmental political power using a lot of targeting and behavioral science and data. And they reach out to low propensity environmental voters, which are people who are registered to vote but don't vote often, and they're the data about them indicates that they care a lot about climate and the environment. And we want to turn them into a reliable, powerful voting bloc. So I guess, did any of y'all do electoral get out the vote work last fall or anything else? Do you want to share what you did or who you did it with? You can shout it out. Nice. With any particular organization? Incredible. 750 postcards. I love that. Anyone else do any get out the vote or candidate specific work? Rachel, I saw you nodding. Awesome. Okay. So, in doing this work, afterwards we kind of talked to people, our volunteers, and we said, why do you do this work with us? What are some of the reasons you like doing this work with the Jewish community? And these were some of the responses. I think that our takeaways is, bringing people together to do important things like feels powerful, but obviously doing that in a community feels like the best. Which is no surprise if you really think about it, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves that we need to be building community, not just doing the work. So a little bit more about Environmental Voter Project. Like Dayenu knows we are not get out the vote experts. Like we're not data experts, like we're not electoral experts. We aren't always tracking elections, but we know people who are. And in a movement, like not everyone has to be good at the same thing, right? And that's why you build trusted partnerships. So Environmental Voter Project has a clear strategy. They have their own tools to reach out to voters. And so they were easy to partner with and make things happen. And again, at Dayenu, we say like, we're bringing Jews to do the climate work. And so we're bringing Jews to do that get out the vote work. And we're doing it through our trusted friend and partner. And again, like Rachel mentioned, we are nonpartisan. We are C3, which means we can't make endorsements, but we can get out the vote and we can make sure everyone that can votes. And sort of the theory of change behind Environmental Voter Project, and the name mostly speaks for itself, but basically we want to change like both the electorate and the minds of elected officials, right, when it comes to like what are the policies on climate we want to see. So we're not just coming in after the election to lobby the politician on what we want to see. We also want to make it like impossible for a politician to run without having a climate policy that like is good, that we're excited about, right? So it's like that, we're still gonna, go lobby them later, but it's a lot nicer if you know they're on your side already. So EVP does that good data analysis like I mentioned. They like do research and tests, and you can look them up. They have like reports with data and analysis and all of that. And again, because they don't endorse or support candidates, that's the best way for us to work with them. And so they are working to increase the number of climate voters. And to do that, you need to do it more than just like every 2 or 4 years, right? We all know the voter data. So since 2015, they've basically established 2.1 million new environmental voters, and like in 2024, they mobilized over 3.9 million voters, and they've measured their turnout as moving the needle as much as like 1.8 percentage points in presidential and general elections. So they're an awesome partner. We're stoked to work with them, but more than that, we are stoked to do things together to build power. So we had a goal, getting out the vote, we had a partnership, and now we needed to turn that into an actual plan, right? We needed a clear way for activists to get involved. And so we decided to set up staff-run phone banks that happened twice a week, and anyone could join anywhere, no matter where we live. And we reached out to existing groups, existing partners, and said, do you want to be part of this work with us? Do you want to promote this event? And that way there's like a little bit more shared ownership, right? We say like, my temple, my synagogue is co-sponsoring this event, and I want to bring all my people there. And like, this is the one that I am really working for. So we can show up as a community together. So our synagogue can say like, we did this thing. We can get the metrics, and we can prove that we helped. We also had phone banks in a box, which is basically putting all the tools and resources together so that people could host their own event in their own home, their own community, making it easy for people to schedule with what works for them. The meat of what we learned and these are things that we seek to incorporate into all of our work, that we seek for others to incorporate into their work. What we consider made these things successful is really having a couple different things. Consistent opportunities that allow us to capture people's interest and engage them quickly. Like when you feel afraid, overwhelmed, you want to act on it soon, and you want to act on it in concrete ways. So we had 2 things a week so people could participate at different times, different schedules. We had themes because you want organizing to be fun. We know phone banking, we got to jazz it up a little bit. You got to put a little spin on it. So how can we make it fun? How can we theme it to Sukkot, right? How can we theme it to particularly speak to a constituency, Gen Z. We had one like a couple days before Halloween, and we said, let's make it fun. Let's make it spooky scary, right? Let's try and build in a little bit more like joy and culture into these activist events. And people were involved in ways other than just making calls. We had people give kavanas, we had people lead trainings, we had people help with data entry, people help with recruitment, really trying to like have a role for everyone and meet people where they are. Not everyone is gonna want a phone bank, but maybe they are a musician and they can play music at the end of the shift, or maybe they wanna help you in some other creative way, right? We wanna give people clear things to do, but we also wanna include everyone and meet people where they are. And 2 events a week is a lot. We have not kept up that pace, but we want to make sure that we have consistent opportunities that anyone can participate in anywhere in the country. So that's been another takeaway for us. Recruitment. I'm sure all of y'all have hosted events. You know how important effective recruitment is for getting people to show up. Many people don't read their emails, or they don't RSVP, and that's okay. I'm guilty of it too. While tabling today, many people said, I don't even look at my inbox, so I'm not gonna sign up. And that's fine, but we're gonna try and figure out a way to get you in the door, right? And if it's not email, there's other ways we can do it. We can call you, we can text you, we can have people who are trusted friends invite you, but I know a lot of us like need to hear more than once or maybe even twice to come to something, and that's okay. There's like a reason your dentist calls and texts you a bunch of times for your appointment. So we try to do the same thing, and usually it works. Like I said, we had almost 800 people joining us over the course of the election. But again, like we want to catch you however we can catch you. And you know, when you're planning an event, like I encourage all of you to think about different ways you can reach out to people. Confirming people, you know, calling through your list ahead of time to make sure people join and they know what to do to join. So yeah, these are some of our lessons learned. Again, with, there we go, leadership, having leadership at a lot of different levels, like I spoke to earlier. Duplicate slide, noted for the future. And then also the other thing that I think is really special about Dayenu is infusing it with Jewish tradition and wisdom. So we try to be really creative with the work that we do, making sure that the events are not just run by a Jewish organization, but they also feel Jewish. And that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But for what it meant for us in this context is including a kavanah or an intention, which brought a lot of different perspectives, and including music to really like bring that spirit. I mean, we all heard earlier, like Rabbi Shoshana. You know how it feels when you're in the groove and you're singing and dancing. Yeah, just like infusing things with more art, more culture, and really, yeah, trying to make something that could at times seem tedious, like feel really special and feel really important and feel like you're able to connect with others on it. So that's what they look like, you know, a Zoom phone bank is still the best way for everyone to join no matter where they live. And I think just, yeah, really making sure that we give people relevant opportunities to the times that we're in. So we have a smaller group, but I wanted folks to like turn to each other and kind of think about like, what are you taking away from this conference, especially when it comes to like taking action. I think there's been a lot of good like learnings and teachings and discussion, but how are you going to be putting this into practice? So I know we have a smaller group and some of you know each other, but I'm going to encourage folks to turn to someone you don't know, and we're going to take about 8 minutes and yeah, talk to each other about what you're taking away. Well, okay, I'm going to wrap things up. I already mentioned the student event that we have coming up. Basically, so Chutzpah, our voter outreach, we do that every month, and it's something that anyone can join. And anyone can host their own phone bank. If your synagogue is looking for like, what's something we can do this month? Like, we're happy to help you make a phone bank. Our next one is gonna be for the New York City mayoral primary. That's gonna be Monday, June 23rd at 6 p.m. So anyone can join that no matter where they live. On the 25th, we have a general interest meeting, which is really about like getting more involved in our work. If you wanna start a circle, we can share more about how to connect with our existing groups, what other circles we already have. We have a monthly gathering for Jews of Color. We have a Jews of Color caucus, that's on the 26th. We have a student thing coming up on the 7th. I think the date is, hasn't 100% been confirmed, which was why I left it off. And then I heard, I heard some of you in the groups talking, but Dayenu is not officially running a statewide campaign in Massachusetts, but it was important for us to come today because we want to be working more deeply in Massachusetts. That's the next state we want to expand into. Engaging more activists, working with our circles, and working to pass that Make Polluters Pay legislation, which is, for those that haven't heard of it, it's basically where top polluters, particularly fossil fuel companies, would contribute billions to the state budget to address climate damages and provide funding for climate resilience and adaptation projects, especially in those communities most impacted by climate change. So it's a really cool bill. We've got a lot of folks who are, it already exists, it's already a campaign, and there are folks here who are already working on it. So if you're interested and you want to get more involved, like we can definitely get you connected in that direction. So that's everything from me. Thank you so much